Discover spine-chilling Skinwalker tales, 7 terrifying encounters exposed from haunted wilderness. The night was alive with whispers, dark shadows creeping through the dense trees, every rustle echoing the unsettling tales of the Skinwalkers, mythical beings prowling the edges of fear. In a rundown town in rural Arizona, where the sun set too quickly, giving way to the oppressive night, Sarah felt every terrifying tale seep into her bones, feeding off her fears. Alone, she was a single mother, working the night shift at the diner, leaving her precious children in the care of her neighbor, a man who wore his charm like a mask, concealing horrors lurking beneath. As shadows stretched, Sarah sensed she was trapped in a nightmare she couldn't shake. Earlier that evening, everything had felt normal: local chatter, clinking mugs, faces illuminated by the harsh diner lights, but a foreboding chill ran down her spine as she hurriedly counted her tips. The faces around her were oblivious, their laughter masking the darkness outside. She kept glancing at her phone, heart racing with thoughts of her children at home, alone. Just a few more hours, she whispered to herself, trying to drown out the whispers of dread. But as the diner emptied, fear clawed at her insides. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. Her children's voices, frantic and small, sent her heart plummeting. "Mommy, it's scary, there are strange noises," her daughter whimpered. The word strange coiled around Sarah's thoughts like a vice. "Tell me what you hear," she demanded, pulse quickening. "Whispers and howls. Like something's right outside." Panic surged. She recalled the stories her grandmother told, stories of skinwalkers who haunted the woods, shifting shapes in the moonlight, stealing children under the guise of night. Before she could process her growing dread, the call dropped. Adrenaline surged through her as she rushed out of the diner, ignoring the stares of worried patrons. The world outside felt alive, each rustle of the leaves and snap of a twig seemingly signaling something sinister. As she drove home, unease twisted in her gut. The tales haunted her. Was it just folklore, or had something truly wicked found its way into her simple life? Just moments after kicking open her front door, breathless and filled with fear, she found the house empty, too quiet. As she stood in the living room, the air thick with that unsettling spark of something being wrong, shadows danced along the walls, taunting her. The scratch at the door sent a jolt through her. She stepped back, her skin alive with panic. Could it be the neighbor, or something worse? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. Sarah clutched her keys like a lifeline, trembling hands gripping the cool metal. Suddenly, the creaking noise from the back door slithered through her mind. It opened just enough to invite the shadow within. Heart pounding, she dipped into the dark, the house morphing into a maze of hollow whispers. The walls seemed thicker, the night alive, breathing down her neck. With each step deeper into the house's belly, her dread surged. She felt eyes watching, invisible, predatory, and then, silence. Gut-wrenching, aching silence. Her children were gone. Panic seared her lungs, and she raced out the door, propelled by primal instinct. The woods loomed before her, alive with sinister life. She could hear small, soft whispers, as if the trees themselves spoke of her fate, and somewhere in the distance a howl pierced the air, savage and piercing, wrapping around her like a noose. The wild mystery of the wilderness was more alive than ever. Shadows sprang forth. She knew she was not alone. Just ahead, in the depth of darkness, lurked her answers, or perhaps her doom. Would she unravel the truth before it was too late? Would she find her children before the fangs of the Skinwalker closed around them forever? Sarah's heart thudded against her ribcage as she took her first steps into the moonlit embrace of the forest. Each snap of a twig underfoot sounded like a scream in her mind. The whispers grew louder, curling in the air around her like ghostly fingers. She felt their cold touch, grazing her skin, pulling her deeper into the heart of the black woods. Then, she heard it. A moan, a distorted sound, almost familiar yet chillingly wrong. It echoed like her daughter calling out to her from just beyond the trees. "Mommy, help!" The voice was like ice, twisting her stomach into knots of dread. It beckoned her, even as caution screamed at her to turn back. Sarah pushed forward, driven by desperation, her only focus the promise of her children's return. "Hasten your steps," she thought. Each footfall filled her with a mix of determination and terror. The shadows loomed larger around her, warping in the corner of her eye, and she fought the urge to look back. What if she saw something there? Something that would break her resolve? "Stay with me, kids!" she yelled into the void, praying they could hear her. "I'm coming." Silence was her only answer, but those haunting whispers, they shifted around her, and she could feel them slip into her mind, wrapping around her thoughts like a vice. "They're lying," they hissed, twisting her gut. "You know they're gone." Panic surged through her. No. She couldn't believe it. Not yet. She stumbled deeper into the oppressive darkness, branches slicing against her exposed skin. A flash in the corner of her eye made her halt. There, near an old gnarled tree, something moved dark and low to the ground, not quite human. She felt bile rise in her throat. A flicker of light caught her attention. Was that the glow of her child's toy? The one that lit up when you squeezed it? Hope surged through her as she dashed toward it, but as she drew closer, the warm glow morphed into something sinister. Twisted, flickering shadows danced around the crimson light, a beacon that led to despair. Then a howl shrieked through the trees. It pierced her very core, sending shockwaves of primal terror coursing through her. The sounds of her children were swallowed by the cry, and a chilling realization settled over her like a cold mist. This was just the woods, it was a hunting ground. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, its eyes glinting in the moonlight like shards of glass. It stood on two legs, but its posture was twisted, grotesque. A chill ran down Sarah's spine. The figure wasn't completely human, something lurched beneath its skin, pulsating in a way that defied nature. "Sarah," it rasped, the voice distorted, echoing every parent's fear. "Come play with us." Memories of her children filled her with a bittersweet longing. She swallowed hard, adrenaline propelling her instincts. "Get away from me!" she screamed, adrenaline-fueled clarity sparking within her. The creature's grin widened, revealing rows of teeth that were far too sharp, and it stepped closer, awaiting her surrender. In that moment, pieces of her grandmother's tales flashed before her eyes, stories of those who had come before. It wasn't just children that Skinwalkers sought, they feasted on fear, on despair. They twisted realities and lured with false promises. With a sudden burst of ferocity, Sarah spun around and tore back through the trees, branches clawing at her, but she wouldn't stop. She recalled the safest memories, her children's laughter ringing in her ears, their presence like a shield. "Hold on, I'm coming!" she shouted, dashing into the thick underbrush. But the whispers, the howls, the promise of her children lingered at her heels, and growing louder. What awaited her could either be salvation or something far darker. As she turned a corner, she skidded to a halt. Before her stood a clearing, and in its center was an altar made of bones and a single flickering candle. Her breath caught in her throat as she squinted into the darkness. There, just beyond the circle of light, she saw forms tangled in shadows. "Mommy," the voice echoed once more, pulling her towards the light. But that was not her children. What kind of sacrifice awaited her, and could she still save them? Her heart pounded as she stepped closer, fear mingling with a wild hope. But as she hovered at the edge, the shadows began to twist and shimmer, revealing their true nature. What was about to emerge could change everything. Would she brave the unknown or turn back into the abyss behind her? The air grew thick around Sarah as she inched toward the altar. Shadows churned and spat around her, pooling like ink in the moonlight. The flickering candle's flame twisted, casting grotesque silhouettes against the trees. She could feel them watching, waiting for her next move. Her breath came quick and shallow, each inhalation filled with the scent of damp earth and decay. "Mommy," the voice was louder now, a chilling echo that pulsed with the unnatural rhythm of her heart. It pulled at her, wrapping tendrils of false hope around her mind. "Please come closer." It was a call that felt sticky, like the web of a spider, beautiful yet deadly. As she stepped into the clearing, the light from the candle illuminated a scene that shifted her gut. What lay on the altar was part nightmare, part memory. There were toys, the ones her children loved. A doll with matted hair and a broken arm, a small truck painted blue, all arranged antithetically on the bone. Each trinket was a piece of a life that should have been, a life that now screamed of despair. The whispers surged around her, a cacophony of lost souls mingling with the memories of her children. "Take a seat," the creature's voice oozed from the depths of the forest, now echoing from behind her. "Join us. Your pain can be ours." Panic clawed at her throat as cold fingers of dread settled heavier in her chest. She turned, but there was no safe direction to escape to. The figure that had haunted her now emerged fully from the tree line. It was grotesque, misshapen, its limbs appeared to bend at impossible angles, and its skin glistened under the moonlight, stretching over a cavernous frame. "Sarah," it crooned again, an unsettling lure that twisted memories of affection into something perverse. "The promises you made, they can still come true." It lunged forward, its sharpened fingers extended, hungry with malice. She stumbled back, fighting the instinct to flee and the longing for comfort. Visions of her children's laughter echoed amidst the growl of the creature. The stark contrast lit a fire of resolve within her. "No. She wouldn't fall for its lies. Leave them alone," she shouted, her voice merging with the howls of the wind, defiance mingling with desperation. "I know what you are." A chilling silence blanketed the clearing. The whispers suddenly ceased. The creature halted, its head cocked as if her words had struck deep. What had she invoked? "Child, it's not about what you know." A sinister smile revealed its grotesque teeth, glistening with a sheen like the night's dew. "It's about what you choose. Give in, and they return to you forever." A chilling image raced through Sarah's mind, her children, arms outstretched, their faces brighter than the unholy candlelight. Could she do it? Could she sacrifice in exchange for their return? The shadows began to crawl closer, wrapping around her ankles like vines, their whispers thickening into a symphony of taunts and seductions. "You could be whole again, Mommy," the voice surged once more, pleading. "We're waiting." Her heart trembled, the weight of the decision almost suffocating. She glanced back at the altar, and her resolve faltered. Here they were, her lifeline, but their forms were blurred and twisted, caught between two worlds. She took a breath. Was it desperation that fueled her? Or courage? Before she could think twice, the shadows lunged, reaching for her. Sarah felt their icy touch grazing her skin, pulling her toward the altar with insatiable hunger. "No!" she screamed, fiercely ripping herself away from the grasping shadows. But her eyes were drawn to the candle. What if it held the key? What if it could save them, save her? In that moment of hesitation, the ground beneath her feet trembled, and the altar began to thrum, pulsing with an ominous energy. What sacrifice would it demand now? And in that very instant, Sarah was left to wonder, was she prepared for the cost of salvation? The shadows whispered eagerly, and the ground rumbled as she faced a choice more daunting than she ever imagined. The boundaries of love and despair blurred, and time ticked towards a terrifying climax that could shatter everything. What awaited them all if she dared to strike the match? The ground beneath Sarah vibrated, a cacophony of discordant sounds rising like a storm. She glanced back at the altar, where the candle flickered erratically, as if caught in an unseen gust. Her heart raced faster, the rhythm pounding in her ears drowning out the whispers. "Oh God, what do you want from me?" Her voice trembled against the darkness that enveloped her. The figure before her slinked forward, its movements fluid and unnatural, each step echoing with a sickening crack, like bones straining against skin. "More than you can know," it hissed. "But you can give me what I desire. You understand loss, don't you?" You long for them as I crave their innocence. The shadows surged up her legs, icy tendrils wrapping tighter, pulling her down toward the altar. She yanked her feet, but still, they gripped her, enticing her with images too mighty to ignore: laughter, joy, her children alive and whole. She grit her teeth, forcing herself to stare into the abyss of the creature's eyes. You're wrong. I won trade their lives for this cursed game. Rage ignited within her, burning brightly against the despair that threatened to suffocate. She took a step back, feeling the cold ease its grip, if only for a moment. Is that so? The creature's grin widened, revealing rows of jagged teeth that seemed to stretch and stretch. You believe your heart can withstand this? The emptiness you feel will consume you if you deny me. It was true, the weight of grief sat heavy on her chest, clawing like an animal caged inside. But she could not bend to despair. With a wild scream, she pulled free of the shadow's grip, bolting toward the altar. Instinct drove her now, the desperate need to reach the candle. Maybe it was the key. She had to know. As she neared, the light pulsed like the beating of a heart, illuminating the grotesque toys once more. They looked different, their faces twisted in anguish, or was it joy? The lines blurred in her mind. A sanity shattered where her children had played, now reduced to charred memories and immobile dolls. Mommy! The voice exploded from the altar, raw and full of suffering. Her throat tightened. With shaking hands, she grasped the candle. The moment her fingers touched the wax, a shock sang through her, igniting sensations of warmth that ricocheted through her body. It felt alive. Do it. Use the flame. The creature screamed from behind her, shrieking with a fervor, clouding her thoughts with chilling reminders of what she could lose. Burn it all. Sacrifice them to the shadows, and they will live. Every instinct urged her to turn, to confront the creature, to blaze a trail of defiance and expose its lies. But the candle flickered, swayed, and her heart cried out at the thought of her children forever trapped. I'll give no sacrifice. Sarah screamed, gripping the candle tighter, her resolve hardening. But as the whispering intensified into a blood-curdling wail, the ground beneath her split open, revealing a gaping maw of darkness, a void that could swallow hope whole. Her head spun with choice, the flame steady in her hands. Would it offer salvation? Or would it demand a price more grotesque than horror itself? And just as she thought she had a grip on her fate, a cold wind howled through the clearing, shrieking of betrayal and despair, the shadows howling, their anger palpable. Make your decision, child. Sarah's heart thundered like a drum, and as she faltered, a sudden realization struck. What if the true horror lay not in the choice itself, but in the consequences that ricocheted beyond it? The air thickened, suffocating in its darkness, as the altar throbbed ominously. Would she unleash chaos, or would she seal her children's fate within the shadows? Time felt like quicksand, every moment stretched, her resolve fading as the whispers reached a fever pitch. What awaited her beyond the candle's light? The shadows around Sarah writhed, alive and aware, thrumming with an insidious vigor. Each breath she took felt like an act of defiance against the chill creeping into her bones. The candle flickered, stretching the limits of its fragile flame, and with it, her last flicker of hope dangled precariously. Choose. Choose now. The creature's voice hissed, each syllable twisting into a silent scream. Its elongated fingers beckoned like a malevolent wind, promising answers but revealing nothing but the gnawing void. Sarah's head buzzed with the torment of unanswered questions, of laughter fading to echoes, of warm embraces turned cold. Is it worth it? She whispered more to herself than to the thing looming grotesquely before her. Can I really bring them back? As if sensing her doubt, the shadows surged again, wrapping tighter, squeezing her resolve. Memories invaded her mind like invasive weeds: her son's laughter, her daughter's voice, the joyous chaos of bedtime stories. They were moments rooted deep within her, powerful talismans against despair. Don't you see? The creature's grin morphed into a twisted facade of compassion. You hold the key to this. Let go of your fear. Light the flame. Sacrifice for the life you want. The altar pulsated with each heartbeat, each throb reminiscent of something grossly alive. The bargain dangled between desperation and hope, a risk woven with terrifying threads. What price was she willing to pay? Would she trade the innocent laughter of her children for the chance to feel their warmth again, even for a moment? Then, from the depths of the altar, a different voice emerged, soft yet shattering. "Mommy, please." It was her daughter's voice, floating like a whisper from a distant dream. Sarah's pulse raced, every nerve igniting with a raw urgency. She couldn't differentiate between the softness of her daughter's plea and the cold, calculating allure of the creature. "Think of the good times," it coaxed, its voice syrupy sweet. Only a moment and they could return. But Sarah's heart battled fiercely against it, pounding in her chest like a war drum. A surge of clarity washed over her. No. This wouldn't bring them back. It would chain her children to this wretched place, an eternal puppet show performed by shadows. The candlelight flickered again, dimming threateningly as her resolve crystallized. "You're lying," she shouted, voice echoing through the void. "You want to consume them. You want to feed. Foolish creature, you cannot resist." It bellowed, its form becoming a swirling vortex of rage. The shadow shrieked, clawing at her skin, chilling her to the bone. Sarah lifted the candle defiantly, fire dancing in her grip. "I will not give in. They are not pawns for your games." The moment stretched, taut like a drawn bowstring, the atmosphere charged with an impending explosion. And then, in a blur, she thrust the candle toward the altar. The flame erupted, an all-consuming fire igniting everything it touched, burning through the shadows. The creature screamed, a sound of pure agony. As the flame spread, the altar groaned against its destruction, and the toys twisted and writhed in the heat, faces contorted in expressions long forgotten. The joy turned to horror. "Mommy! Save me!" The echoing plea intensified, resonating deep within her heart. She couldn't look away from the chaos unfolding, the shadows scrabbling for a grasp, the monstrous figure dissolving into darkness, its wails chilling her, but as fire swirled around her, she realized with horror the shadows were not fading away, they were gathering. The candle's light may have momentarily shattered their hold, but more were coming. "What have I done?" Sarah gasped, heart hammering against the realization. In the distance, a new entity began to emerge from the suffocating darkness, a form clawing through the night, beckoning with familiar innocence and malice. Suddenly, a blinding light surged from within the burning altar, and the ground trembled with an ominous rumble, announcing the start of something darker. "Mommy's coming back." The echo echoed, but who would return? Fear wrapped around her heart, squeezing until she gasped for breath. The shadowed figure loomed just behind, its hunger not yet sated, its true face shrouded in the growing chaos. Could she face what lay ahead? Or would she only unleash a terror far worse than herself? What kind of entity had she just disturbed, and what would come crawling back from that infernal void? The ground shook, dust clouds swirling around Sarah, filling her lungs with acrid smoke. She staggered back, the heat from the fire licking her skin as it twisted and shaped the air into ghostly forms. With every crackle of the flame, shadows screeched, the sound piercing through her thoughts, reminding her of everything she'd tried to escape. "Mommy." The voice floated again, hauntingly familiar yet warped. Was it her daughter? Or something darker, dressing itself in the tattered remains of her memories? The shadows flickered, twisting into indistinguishable shapes, wrapping around her ankles like cold fingers. The entity loomed nearer, congealing from the smoke, its demonic visage etched with what looked like scraps of her children's features, eyes wide, mouths open in silent screams, forever imprisoned in a dance of agony. The candle flickered threateningly in her grasp, desperately fighting against the engulfing shadows. It was a lone beacon in a tempest of despair. "No more!" she yelled, clenching it like a lifeline. Memories of laughter, comfort, and warmth slammed into her, pushing against the deepening dread. She refused to let them claim her children again, but every heartbeat was a taunt, a reminder of their absence, and with that came doubt. Ungrounded and raw, it seeped into her thoughts, whispering of failure. What if you can't save them? It cooed, the shadows drooling. Enough! She screamed, defiance unraveling her fears like the rising flames. Each step she took forward felt monumental, like pushing through the weight of unyielding darkness. The shadowed figure recoiled at her conviction. In terror, Sarah realized the monster was more than just a manipulative presence, it was a sentient being, feeding off her despair, the embodiment of all her hidden fears. She ground her teeth and thrust the candle at the creature, the flame blazing brighter in response, as if sensing her bravery, but the shadows twisted back, furious and relentless. You think fire can defeat despair? It wailed, a cacophony of voices intertwined with her children's laughter now morphed into a sinister chorus. Mommy, I'm scared. The cry burrowed deep, thrumming through her heart like a drum. The tone carried an unsettling malice that sent ice racing down her spine. Was she truly hearing it, or was it the beast mimicking their voices to torment her? No! Get away from them! She screamed, realizing too late the price of her actions. The altar burned, and the shadows around it rose like a tidal wave, splintering into new forms. Hungry for revenge, out of the chaos, a girl emerged. Small, innocent, and shockingly familiar. Sarah fell to her knees in disbelief. Ella? She gasped, heart leaping, veins ice cold. Her daughter's figure seemed both real and spectral, the shadows holding her like a shroud. Help me, Mommy. The girl pleaded, reaching out with a trembling hand. Desperation erupted inside Sarah, an overwhelming urge to save her child warring against the creeping realization that this might be a trap. Stay back! Sarah shouted, instinct compelling her to keep the candle steady. But as she squinted through the haze, Ella's face morphed. Shadows elongated her features, twisting them grotesquely. Join us, the figure beckoned, eyes glinting like obsidian. We can be a family again, forever. A knot of dread constricted around Sarah's throat. Could she trust her eyes? Was it the shadows reclaiming their prey, or a chance to embrace the lost? No retreating now. The flames sputtered, and with every twist of the shadows, Sarah felt the boundary between love and horror blurring. Ella! She cried, her heart splintering, uncertainty gnawing at her mind. With one desperate thought, she lunged forward. Would she really face the shadows or embrace the familial nightmare waiting for her? An answer awaited in the chaos, but as she dove toward her daughter, the world exploded in darkness, another horrifying truth emerging from the depths. What kind of choice would she have to confront next? And would she even recognize the faces she once loved? The darkness swallowed her whole, a velvet shroud that pulled her into a churning void. There was no ground beneath her feet, no walls to crash against, just an infinite expanse that sucked the breath from her lungs. Then, as suddenly as it began, the void released her. Sarah landed hard on the ground, the impact knocking the wind out of her. She gasped, the acrid scent of burned wood and ash swirling around her once more. Panic clawed at her throat as she pushed herself to her feet, frantically looking for Ella. Ella! She shouted, a pitiful echo in the expansive void of night that had replaced the altar. No answer came, only the oppressive silence and her pounding heart. The shadows lurked close, crawling like sentient beings, eager to consume her. Their whispers slithered through the air like venomous snakes, each word twisting and distorting the horrors she tried to bury. Join us, you're one of us, you can't escape, stop it. She cried, clutching the candle that still flickered fitfully. Its weak light fought against the thick blackness, but as the shadows surged forward, she felt its strength waning. Remember when you lost them? A voice taunted, twisting the soft cry of her daughter into the hideous laughter of the shadows. You can't save them, you never could. Fear surged like bile up her throat. No, what did you expect? The words wrapped around her like iron chains. They pulled on memories she wanted to forget, dredging up the sudden absence of laughter in her house, the empty seat at the table, the silence that haunted her every waking moment. Each thought cut deeper, a cold dagger twisted in her heart. She panted, feeling the weight of hopelessness pressing down, refusing to let go. The light of her candle flickered, casting grotesque shadows that danced on the ground. Then, through the haze, another figure emerged. Not Ella, but vaguely familiar, a shadowy silhouette with elongated limbs and sunken eyes. "Mommy," it rasped, voice distorted and sickeningly sweet. "I'm still here." Sarah took a step back, her heart pounding louder. "Stay away from me!" She screamed, but the figure inched closer, its form rippling, changing, becoming something else entirely. "Why fight us? You can join this salvation, embrace your pain. Be with your children eternally," it said, as it projected images of her daughter that danced along the edges of Sarah's mind. Ella's laughter, innocent and bright, transformed into a haunting melody, echoing promises of days that could never be reclaimed. The shadows surged at her, a wave of darkness crashing, clawing for her. In a moment of clarity, she realized the figures were trying to seduce her, to trick her into surrendering her soul for what could never be. "No!" she shouted, thrusting the candle forward as if it were a weapon. The flame sputtered defiantly, momentarily illuminating the grotesque forms of the shadows, revealing the broken, twisted features of the souls trapped within. With each flicker of the flame, she pushed back. "I will not join you." But with each proclamation of defiance, the shadows recoiled, only to surge forward again, even more fiercely. "Will you let them suffer? Release your fear. Let go." They hissed. As the searing heat of despair pierced her mind, another voice broke through the chaos. "Mommy!" At the sound, her heart leaped, but uncertainty chased it down. Was it a trick? Or a glimmer of hope? With resolve swelling within her, Sarah squeezed her eyes shut and focused. "Whatever you are, whatever power you think you have, you won't take me or them." But the shadows only laughed, a cacophony of horror. "What if we told you they're closer than you think? Your choices matter more than you know. Soon you'll be given an option, a sacrifice." As the darkness swirled, Sarah felt herself slipping once more, the shadows wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket. They whispered promises laced with terror, weaving a narrative of despair against the flickering light of her candle. Would she have the strength to fight against the ultimate sacrifice? And would the shadows truly reveal what lay beyond if she dared to face her greatest fear? The flickering flame dimmed, casting elongated shadows that twisted and contorted in grotesque ways. Sweat trickled down Sarah's brow, betraying her resolve. "I want to let you take me," she wheezed, her voice trembling yet defiant. The shadows stilled, but only for a moment. A low rumble of laughter rose, surrounding her like a funeral dirge. "You think you can resist? We are ever present, waiting in the silence. You cannot escape what is yours." She darted her eyes around the vast emptiness, hoping to find a familiar face, a hint of comfort. But nothing. Just darkness. The distorted figure loomed closer, pulling Sarah into its grasp. "Think of your choices. What if saving them means losing yourself?" The words scratched at her mind. A choice? What did that even mean now? Ella's sweet voice flashed again in her memory, bright and pure, then faded to a chilling echo of laughter. "Leave her alone." Sarah shrieked, clutching the candle harder, its waxy exterior threatening to crumble under the pressure of her grip. With a sudden burst of courage, she stepped further into the darkness, into the thrumming heart of dread. "I will not give in." The shadows momentarily flickered, as if her defiance had struck them, but then, the air thickened, twisting tight around her, suffocating the defiance like a wet blanket. "You can't keep fighting," the shadows hissed. "Face your fear, or lose everything you love." The weight of their words bore down on her, each syllable a leaden weight on her chest. Images flashed before her eyes, a life with Ella, glimpses of joy that morphed into loss, confusion, and despair. The longing was unbearable. As she breathed in the acrid air, the candle flickered wildly, caught in the tide of her swirling emotions. But Ella, was she truly lost? Was the little girl's laughter nothing more than a haunting echo? "I'll find you," Sarah murmured, the words a whisper choked by fear. "I will bring you back." The shadows trembled at her proclamation, hesitating, like predators sensing prey had found its strength. So brave, yet bound to fail. "You search for what you cannot reach." They surged at her, a rushing flood of darkness. This time, Sarah didn't flinch. The candle flared, and with its light, a small figure darted through the chaos. "Mommy! Help!" Her heart leaped. "Ella! Hold on, baby!" she called, desperately wielding the flame like a sword. But with each step closer she took, the shadows twisted like angry serpents, blocking her path. "Don't trust her, she's not real. Let her fade." The echoes of doubt slithered into her ears, trying to ensnare her thoughts. She paused, uncertainty clawing at her heart as dark shapes clawed at the glow of her candle. What if they were right? What if running toward this flicker of hope led her deeper into despair? "Keep going, Mommy." Ella's voice echoed, pulling her back to focus. Sarah gritted her teeth, the shadows tightening their grip. She fought against their whispers, against the paralyzing urge to collapse under their weight. Raising the candle higher, she pushed forward, determination igniting within her. But as she neared the familiar voice, the flicker of hope grew dim again. "You choose, save her or save yourself," they chanted, their sinister chorus a lethal lullaby. Would she face the sacrifice the shadows demanded? Or cling to the last embers of hope, no matter the cost? The choice loomed heavily, cloaked in darkness, leaving her teetering on the edge of despair. The candle flickered one last time, revealing a glimpse of the true Ella behind the veil of shadows. Beneath the weight of that eternal darkness, Sarah could feel the swell of terror closing in. What was she willing to sacrifice for the possibility of salvation? And as shadows surged, the flicker of hope began to fade. The shadows lunged, wrapping around Sarah, stealing her breath and sapping her strength. She could feel their icy tendrils reaching deep, unearthing her deepest fears. 1,000 voices whispered, drowning her in doubt. "You're too late," they taunted. "She's gone." "No!" Sarah screamed, thrusting the candle forward. Its feeble light wavered, but for her, it felt like a lifeline. The darkness seemed to recoil, momentarily hesitating before lunging again, more vicious than before. "Save her!" Ella's voice rang out, a desperate plea echoing through the suffocating void. It was a siren call she couldn't ignore. But the weight of the shadows bore down, a grasping dark mass intent on dragging her into the abyss. "Think of your future, Sarah," the dark whisperer hissed, the figure now a serpent of chaos, slithering closer. "You can have peace. Give in, and let her go." Sarah felt a pulse of desperation. How could she choose between saving her daughter and saving herself? "Stop. I won't betray her." Each word was punctuated by anguish, but her heart raced with defiance. Then, in an instant, a shot of light burst through the blackness. It wasn't just the candle's flame, something else illuminated the space. A memory? A vision? The scene flickered into view, the two of them, bright sunshine glistening on the playground. Laughter echoed. Ella, running towards the swings, her flowing hair catching the wind. Innocent joy. An ache filled Sarah's chest. It was both beautiful and painful, but the darkness laughed, loud and mocking. One moment of joy, that's what you're choosing over what is real. The playground scene wavered like a mirage, and with it, Sarah's spirit faltered. Could the shadows be right? What if fighting against this was tearing Ella apart? "Mommy, please." Ella's voice called again, urgency laced with terror. The flickering image of her daughter pulled at her heart, a tether of hope wrapped in fear. No. She had to fight. Sarah steadied herself, murmuring a silent vow. "I will find you, Ella. I promise." With that, she plunged herself deeper into the fray, fighting through the shadows, her heart pounding a fierce rhythm of love and fear. She felt the candle waning, its wax melting in her grip. Just a little longer, she urged, pushing forward. The shadows writhed and twisted, forcing her back, but Sarah held on. She could see Ella's silhouette through the darkness, growing ever closer. But just as she thought she could reach out and grasp her daughter's hand, a chilling howl erupted, splitting the air like glass. The shadows recoiled, shrieking, unraveling the world around her. "What is happening?" she gasped, stumbling as the void trembled. Then, she caught a glimpse of movement, a dark figure, unlike the shadows that now shrank away. It lurked just behind Ella, shifting with a ghostly fluidity. A terrible sense of dread coiled in the pit of her stomach as horrified realization washed over her. It wasn't just darkness, it was something far worse than she had imagined. "Run!" the sinister voice hissed, but it was too late. The figure lunged forward, revealing its grotesque form, a monstrous silhouette, its eyes glowing like icy coals in the blackness. Sarah fell back, panic exploding within her. The candle flickered once more, nearly extinguished by the horror closing in. "Ella, run!" she cried again, but doubt crept in. Would her daughter even hear her? Desperation ignited her will. Gripping the candle tightly, she surged forward, fueled by love and fear alike. This time, she could feel the shadows' resolve weakening. But what cursed beast had come to take Ella away? The truth loomed large, wrapping tightly around her, all the pieces swirling together in a horrific dance. As she barreled forth, the dark laughter rang out, deep and resonant. "You think you can stop us? This is only the beginning." Sarah's heart pounded, and the air crackled with malevolence. A choice still loomed ahead, but time was running out. The candle's light flickered one last time, and then the darkness surged forward with a blood-curdling roar. Would Sarah summon enough strength to shield Ella from the impending horror? As shadows closed in once more, what truth was lurking just beyond their grasp? The chaos of the shadows twisted into unimaginable shapes as Sarah fought to steady her push forward. The candle flickered violently in her grip, warmth battling against the encroaching cold wrapping around her heart. She could see Ella, a beacon of innocence, trapped in the cruel web of shadows that clawed at her like desperate hands. "Mommy!" Ella cried out, her voice a mix of terror and longing, just barely audible above the clamor of demonic laughter that echoed through the thick gloom. The shadows danced hungrily, their whispers now a storm rolling towards her, each syllable promising despair and seduction. "Hold on, Ella. I'm coming!" Sarah shouted, determination igniting a fierce light beneath her ribcage. The flame wavered, but with each word, it flickered brighter, fueled by love and desperation. Shoving fear aside, she surged forward, her spirit a shield against the darkness. The shadows shrieked in anger, twisting and thrashing as she approached Ella, their ghastly forms contorting into horrific faces, mouths wide with mocking laughter. "Let her go!" Sarah screamed, her heart pounding, slamming back against the encroaching darkness as she dared to reach out for her child. Ella's small hand stretched desperately toward her, glimmering like a star in the storm. "I can't hold on much longer, Mommy. It's so dark." Ella's words broke through like shards of glass, piercing Sarah's resolve. "Just a little more," she pleaded, fighting through pain and fear that threatened to drag her back down into oblivion. "I want to leave you." Suddenly, a gust of wind roared through the clearing, and with it came unearthly howls. A figure emerged from the swirling shadows, larger than any she had seen before, a grotesque silhouette woven with the darkest threads of despair. Its eyes, like dying embers, locked onto her with malevolence that threatened to pull her under. "You cannot save her." The creature's voice slithered around them, thick and suffocating. "She is bound to the shadows now, as are you." "No!" Sarah roared, lifting the candle higher, its flickering light cutting a path through the darkness. You're lying. I'll never give up on my children. As she neared the edge of the shadow-formed void, a terrible realization washed over Sarah. The shadows thrived on despair, feeding off fear and loss. This was their ultimate trap. They wanted her to surrender, to give in to the overwhelming force pulling her apart, but she was determined to fight back. Taking a deep breath, she focused on Ella. You're not gone, my love. Find the light inside you, and let it guide you back to me. The air shifted. For a moment, the shadows faltered, wavering. The flickering light expanded, illuminating the twisted forms around her, revealing shadows of lost souls trapped in an eternal dance of anguish. I'm here, Mommy. Ella's voice rang out, pure and bright, cutting through the veil of despair. I'll find you. Just wait for me. Before Sarah could respond, her daughter began to fight against the darkness, the very essence of her hope igniting into a radiant glow. The creature lunged, a frenzied howl escaping its lips, furious at the sight of Sarah and Ella's bond strong against the tide of despair. No. You cannot break the seal. You will join us. In that instant, Sarah's heart swelled, pushing against the shadows that clawed at her mind. Leave her alone. She screamed. The candle flickered again, now a persistent flame burning brightly, warding off the encroaching darkness. Join us. They echoed, voices mingled with her children's laughter, but Sarah stood firm. No. I choose my family. I choose love. Suddenly, the shadows recoiled, the force of her conviction like a tidal wave crashing against their walls. In a fever pitch of defiance, she thrust the candle toward them, its light exploding into a cascade of brightness that lit up the entire clearing. Shadows curled and shrieked in horrifying agony as the light washed over them, illuminating their twisted forms, revealing their fear, the fear of being exposed, of losing their grasp on Sarah, and then, in that decisive moment, the ground trembled violently beneath her. The darkness erupted, thrashing and writhing as she fought to pull Ella from its grasp. Let go. She shouted, each word igniting a newfound power inside her. You're free. You don't belong here. The shadows, once ominous and consuming, began to diminish, shriveling away like ghostly fog under the heat of the sun. Light streamed through, washing over Sarah and Ella, wrapping them in warm embrace. Mommy! Ella cried, her face emerging from the mass of writhing shadows, radiant with the light of love and hope. Sarah dove forward, their fingers interlocking. For a fleeting moment, time stretched as they grasped onto each other tightly, laughter piercing through darkness, the bond unbreakable. Together! Sarah shouted, their voices merging like a symphony of resilience. With a final surge, they pushed back against the last remnants of darkness, light flowing through them, constructing a barrier of love strong enough to shatter any shadow. The creature howled, fraying at the edges, and with a final, desperate scream, it vanished into a shroud of smoke, leaving nothing but echoes of shadows whispering into the night. Sarah and Ella stood together, panting, clutching each other tightly, the air now clear as dawn broke over the horizon. The sounds of the woods softened, brimming with life again, the threat finally dissipated, and beneath the golden glow of the rising sun, they stepped into a world renewed, holding each other like a shield against whatever nightmare might lurk in the dark. The nightmare was over, but the bond they formed, a testament to love in its purest form, would forever guide them, like light against the darkness. As they walked home together, hand in hand, the horizon filled with warmth, a sense of hope blossomed in their hearts, a beacon for all that was to come. Now, it's your turn to take action. You need to subscribe to the channel now to ensure you don't miss out on our next exclusive tales. Trust me, you won't want to miss a single one. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and keep the stories alive. I want to hear all your thoughts. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories, and let us discuss the journey together. And for those who love a good story, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support is everything, so let's keep this community growing together.